Hello everybody, this is Chris Bird or MonkeyDude1313, and this is a nearly completed master set of EX Dragon Frontiers. This set is one of, if not the, best sets in the entire Pokemon TCG, and I strongly welcome any of you to post what your favorite set is in the comments so that we can fight about it. This set is fantastic. Dominated by Delta species type Pokemon, there's only a few that aren't Delta. So for this master set, we're including Holos, non-Holos, reverses, gold stars, everything. And we're only missing 2 cards. But don't you worry, neither of those 2 cards are the gold stars. Here, in the Charizard binder, we have the Charizard Delta Star, which we will pull out when necessary. Also, why is this Nidoking here? We'll get to that in a little bit as well. So, like I mentioned, Delta species Pokemon, what are those? Delta species Pokemon are where the Pokemon has a type other than what its type normally is. Using this Ampharos as an example, normally Ampharos is electric type, and here he is a normal type. Still has weakness to fighting though. So Delta species variants are type Pokemon with different types. And if you were interested in the subplot going along at the time, we have all of the Holland researches and Holland laboratories and all of this stuff experimenting on Pokemon, and that's why we ended up with so many different Delta-typed Pokemon. Next up, a fan favorite in Feraligatr. No longer a water type, he is now an electric type, and it is really fun to see how the artists choose to represent a Pokemon that has its typing so clearly built into its design. So Feraligatr really looks like he should be a water type. He's blue, he's big, he's fast, very much water. But now that he's an electric type, the artist had to figure out how to get across that he is electric, despite being obviously water. Beautiful, beautiful card. Next up, Heracross here. Normally a bug fighting type is now fire. You couldn't be any farther from the normal Heracross typing. Weak to fire though, so it looks like in a lot of cases, if not all, the weakness is based off the Pokemon, not off of the new Delta typing. We can look on this Heracross here, and we can see that the holo pattern is different on this than a lot of other Pokemon, even Pokemon from this era. So the holo rares have just the Pokemon itself being holo. You can see that Heracross's body is holo there, and instead of the background having holo, now the entire border of the card is golden instead of yellow, and is holo as well. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Meganium. Meganium is a pure grass type normally, and this Meganium is weak to water and resistant to, weak to fire and resistant to water, but now he is fighting type. Since the TCG types encompass multiple in-game types, does this fighting make Meganium ground type? Does it make him fighting type? Does it make him rock type? We don't really know, and that is part of the fun of it. Sometimes the details of the card down here can indicate which one they are intending for, but not always. Melodic. And actually, the Delta species Feebas in this set is absolutely glorious. Very excited to pull that out when we get to it. But again, we can see just the body is holo on that and the silver border of the card. This Melodic is a great example. Look right above the eye there. That could either be a print line or a sheet misalignment. So the way these cards are printed is in multiple layers, and there is a holo layer that gets put into the card, and then an opaque layer put over the top of the card where they don't want it to be holo. So since the holo sheets are not as big as the other sheets, and they don't want to waste extras, they will take 2 holo sheets and put them right next to each other. The goal is that you get them perfectly aligned so that they don't bunch up on top of each other, but you also don't want them far enough away that you can tell where there's a gap. This Melodic allows you to see where the gap between 2 sheets was. So whether we consider that a print line or we consider that a sheet offset, we don't know, but still very neat to notice. This Nidoking, Delta species Nidoking, looks absolutely daunting in Dark type, and at the time this was a huge type change for Nidoking being Dark type. However, as of Sword Shield base, sometimes, or most of the time, we are now printing Poison type Pokemon as Dark types. So you could argue that even though this Nidoking is Delta species and has changed to Dark type, as far as the Pokemon game types versus TCG card types go, this Nidoking might actually just be Poison type. A fun little thing to have trivia about. Definitely impress your other TCG nerd friends at your next party. So that is why I pulled out this Team Rocket's Nidoking EX SIR from Destined Rivals. We can see that a Poison Ground Pokemon was giving the TCG type of Dark. And the reason they chose to switch Poison out of Grass and out of Psychic and into Dark, they've now had all three of those typings in the TCG, is a game choice so that Dark Pokemon will have a Dark Dex will have access to Pokemon that are not just weak to fighting. Although in this case, Nidoking is still weak to fighting. So there's a fun fact. This Nidoking may be the only correct typing for a Delta species Pokemon. To counter that, though, we have Nidoqueen here. And Nidoqueen and Nidoking, as you might know, share the same typings, but this one was not given Dark. This one was given Steel type, which is very obviously incorrect based on what its original typings were. But I'm so glad they included both the Nidoqueen and Nidoking in the same set. Oftentimes they will include one and not the other, and it makes me sad. Where are you? Alright, this Ninetales Delta species. Absolutely glorious. And there's actually a little bit of interest in this one because Ninetales can actually cast a few Fire-type moves that feel kind of ghosty and feel kind of psychic-y in the games. And I said cast specifically because moves like Will-O-Wisp, are you shooting a Will-O-Wisp at them? Are you punching them with a Will-O-Wisp? Or you're kind of just manifesting a Will-O-Wisp? So this Ninetales kind of emphasizes a little bit that it does have access to some of these more supernatural type powers. I absolutely love the art here, and this, what I'm assuming is the moon in the back there, I can't tell for sure, lighting up the Ninetales in the way that it is lighting up with the holo pattern, I think just looks glorious. Last one to finish off this holo page is Pinsir. Fighting type Pinsir, normally a bug type. But you know what? With how much he attacks and how much he punches people in the face, fighting doesn't feel too far off for Pinsir. So when they say armor down here, were they thinking like rock type armor? Were they thinking like a craggy exterior, like a ground type armor? Or are they going for fighting type? I don't know, but it is a lot of fun to consider. So let's do the first binder flip, 7 minutes in, and we get to the last 3 holos here. Still, you'll see all Delta species type Pokemon. This Snorlax is one of the most sought after cards in the set. Grass type Snorlax with no attacks. It is a Pokebody and a Pokepower, which work very well together. So this guy was very passive, which is exactly what you'd expect from a Snorlax, being very passive. Wonderful card, even better in reverse holo, and we will get there when we get there. Togetic, second to last holo in the set. Water type instead of its normal fairy flying type, and that fits really well. Although, back when this set was printed, fairy type did not exist, and so this was actually a normal type back in the day. And the last holo, we have a Typhlosion, Delta species. So in this case, he gets a Psychic type, which, similar to the Ninetales, a fire turned into a Psychic, but if you know the newer Pokemon, Hisuian Typhlosion actually is truly a Psychic type Pokemon. And so I wonder if they had a cool idea early on to make Typhlosion Psychic, and use Delta as their first excuse, and then just decided to remake an entire Typhlosion for Hisuian. Interesting to think about. Interesting. Alright, so now we're into the non-holos. I love all of these cards, and I want to go through all of them, but we'll pull them out when we get to the reverses, because the reverse holos of all of these cards are still glorious. So as you may have noticed on the previous page, and you'll now notice here, we do have some non-Delta species Pokemon, like this Kirlia, for example. Kirlia has a Psychic type, and it has a Psychic type card. Well, my thought process for why they chose to do this was to differentiate it from the Delta species Kirlia in the same set. So we have Pupitar, Larvitar, Kirlia, and Ralts, who all get 2 printings in the set, and therefore have a Delta and non-Delta variant. And I will point those out as we go to them. So here's an example. Larvitar Electric type, Larvitar Fighting type. And then we have Pupitar Fighting, Pupitar Electric. So there's a great example for you there. Next up, we get to the trainers. And the entire Delta species idea kind of had its own trainer set to go along with it. So cards like Holon Mentor were very good at working specifically with Holon type decks, which had a unique energy system and everything. If you played the TCG, you'll know. This next flip is arguably the grandest reveal in the set, And this is where all of the EXs are. Every single EX here is Delta type, and there are 10 of them in the set. Some of the EX era sets only had 3 EXs in them. This one, luckily, did not only have 3, it had 10. So let's get into that. Altaria EX Delta species is a water type. Glorious. This is one of the only 2 cards we needed to pick up recently. Everything else, all of the other EXs, we've had for quite a long time. You'll also notice a really nice hollow line right through the face. That is how these kinds of things go. But yet again, I could gush about Delta species forever, but this card does it justice. Next up, got to be careful with these. Next up, we have Dragonite EX Grass type. Another glorious card. For dragon types in the TCG, before they even gave us an official dragon typing, which they have given us and taken away and given again and taken away again, Dragonite, most dragon types were colorless, represented as colorless in the TCG, but they often used multiple different types of energy to indicate how special they were. So Rayquaza from EX Dragon, for example, used fire and electric energies, even though it was a colorless Pokemon. So it's kind of neat to see how when they Delta specied up some of these dragons, how they were just kind of given one of the types that they previously had to use. Dragonite was usually, not always, but usually when Dragonite was colorless, it required grass and electric energies. So it picked up one of those types. Flygon EX Delta. Nice. Psychic type as well. The art is a little bit funky on this one. I still like it. I still have a lot of fondness for it, but the art is a little interesting. So Flygon usually is pretty wide, and he's pretty big. And they try and show off how like cool and wingspan-y he is. In this case, they showed him in the middle of what seems to be a tornado, which makes sense given that he's a grounded dragon-type Pokemon. And, did I say tornado? I meant sandstorm. My apologies, or a sand tornado. There you go, I was right all along. But yeah, so they have him like flying out of the eye of the storm, which I think is very neat. But also, this is not a way you normally see Flygon depicted. Next up, you guys may recognize this from the recent reprint set, where we got the Umbreon Gold Star Part 2. That's not $15,000. We got this Gardevoir EX from that set as well, and this is the card that it was mimicking, or being a reprint of. Glorious card here, Fire type as its Delta, and we saw earlier in the binder that there is both a Ralts and Kirlia Fire type to match, or you could use the Psychic type ones if you wanted. Very nice. These Delta species Pokemon did not need to evolve from a specifically Delta pre-evolution. Next, we have Kingdra EX, normally a water dragon, now has the fighting type. Again, we don't know if it's supposed to be rock ground fighting, but that is okay. Beautiful card here, very nice art. Since the background of the card is hollow on these guys, what's the right way to say this? They really make the bubbles pop. Well, I should have thought that through a little bit more. The bubbles exist more vibrantly in the picture. The bubbles themselves have not popped, at least as far as I can tell. And then we got the pair of Latios and Latios EX Delta. Again, glorious cards, and they gave them fire and water type to complement each other very well. I really like, in this case, how they chose a color of the Pokemon itself to kind of choose as its Delta. So Latios is normally a red Pokemon, so they made it fire type, and Latios is normally a blue Pokemon, so they made it water type. It's a little fun factoid there. This Latios art is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. They really knocked these out of the park, in my opinion. Alright, one of, if not the most popular card from this set, at least in terms of the Pokemon, is Rayquaza. He's given a vibrant electric typing here, and the art really does it justice as well. Glorious. I don't really have all that much to say about these, I just absolutely love these cards. Next, the second to last of the EXs is Salamence EX, given a water typing here. And if you look on the chest, it really looks like he's standing over the water with the reflections of some water there on his like chest plating or chest scales. I'm trying to get the light to show that properly instead of just covering it up. But that is actually absolutely glorious. And the final EX, the only one we had duplicates of, Tyranitar EX Delta. We actually still have the second copy. We're looking to find a new home for it. But Tyranitar EX, lightning type Delta, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And as per usual, they give Tyranitar more attacks than he should have, with 3 in this case. Mewtwo was the first Pokemon back in Team Rocket to get a 3rd attack, and most Pokemon don't have 3 attacks, even all the way up until this point, but Tyranitar is one of the lucky few who gets access to multiple attacks. And I think part of that's because a lot of his biggest attacks take 4 or 3 energies. Alright, well those are glorious. What could be better than that? Well, this set has 2 gold stars in it. And let's do the grandest reveal. The gold stars up here. You'll notice we have the Mew, but a Fire-type energy in its place. So we return to the Charizard binder with our glorious French 1st edition Fossil Dragonite bookmark. Nice, nice. To pull out the Delta Charizard star. Let me bring that here into the middle of the camera. We pull out the Delta Star Charizard. Oh boy. This is difficult to touch. Not actually difficult, but this card is worth a new car. This card is absolutely insane, especially in as great of a condition as we have it here. And so I try not to touch this guy too much for fear of messing it up. But let us pull that out here, admire some of the other Gen 3 Charizards for a bit, and then we can put it into its rightful place. So this is one of the only times that our Fire-type Gold Energy placeholders don't really feel correct, because this is not a Fire-type Charizard anymore. This is a Dark-type Charizard. So this is actually what the last page of Dragon Frontiers is supposed to look like. So we'll pull out the Charizard again, now that we've gotten that little nice view there, and we can take a look. This, I think, is one of the best Charizard arts they've ever done. Not just for the detail on the fire, not just with how nice the dark looks, but since shiny Charizard is black, now his Delta species typing is black, and that fits very, very, very well. I could gush about this card forever. Charizard is one of my favorite Pokemon. He's obviously a fan favorite in a lot of ways. This card is one of the, if not the, grail cards of all time. Nice. Absolutely love it. Fun fact, I had 2 of these back in the day when I was opening packs from this set, and I sold both of them along with my entire collection. Sad days. But you know what? I used some of the money I made to buy a GameCube, and that GameCube provided tons and tons of fun and enjoyment, so I can't be too upset. This Mew star was actually the first raw gold star we bought in the past year. We did not have all the gold stars from all of these sets, and so we've needed to be collecting them even while they are so expensive. So this was the first raw gold star we found, and interestingly enough, after we found this Mew, we found a Celebi star from the same seller, and then a different seller in the same room of the same show 20 minutes later had the Jolteon and Vaporeon gold stars from Power Keepers, which we also picked up at the time. So that was one day where we bought 4 gold stars. Incredible. So this Mew in shiny is blue, and all shiny Mews are blue. You may remember from the Koro Koro Mew back in Neo Destiny, Japanese only. And they gave this Mew water typing because it is blue. I'm assuming they chose it based on that. I'm not exactly sure why. Very beautiful. Very, very nice card here in fantastic condition. Got a little bit of a print line on the air, but no big deal. It hides in with the card quite well. All right, so 19 minutes into this glorious set, and we haven't even started on the reverses. Usually this is where I would say, reverses aren't that expensive. Enjoy collecting them. Take care of your bulk. Appreciate the art. In this case, reverses from Gen 3, especially the stamped ones, are obscenely valuable. Often, the reverses are worth more than the holo variant of the card itself. For example, this Ninetales I think is worth $150 right now, where the normal holo is worth maybe $90. So, kind of crazy how the reverses are worth so much more. Let me pull out a few and we can take a look. I will start with this Nidoking that we touched on earlier. You'll notice that the main difference is 2 different things. So the holo Nidoking looked exactly like this, except it did not have gold text in the name and HP, which really make them pop on the card, but it also did not have this Dragon Frontiers stamp on it. So that is how you can tell the reverse of the holo rares from the normal holo rares. And as we flip through this set, we will notice that even the non-holo rares and the uncommons all got a very nice treatment here. So let's pull out everyone's favorite Pokemon Jinx. Definitely no controversy or weirdness in that statement, but now you can see that the Pokemon itself is the only holo part. They did not give it a gold name in HP because this was not a holo rare in the set, but they did give it the Dragon Frontiers logo there. It's very, very nice how these Delta species pop in reverse. Alright, so I'd love to pull all of these out. So let's just pull out a few and not worry too much about it. I really like this Croconaw art. This is a Yukimori art here, and one of the rare times where Yukimori art got put onto a card like this in terms of reverses. We got a couple of them from Gen 3, but this is absolutely fantastic. So this clay Croconaw evolves into that menacing electric monster we saw at the beginning of the video. Moving on a little bit more here, you will see one of the first cards we're missing from this set. And I believe that this one is a Horsey. I believe this is the Horsey Delta species. Yes, Horsey Delta, which is normally a fighting type. And then the next one is on the next page that we're missing. Here's another Yukimori art here. Very, very nice. This Bagon is sick. Absolutely love that. And Smeargle. Looking angry for one of the first times ever. Smeargle is usually just kind of a happy, lazy, painty guy, and today he is now very angry. This Grass-type Dragonair Delta over here actually got a pre-release stamped version, and it was one of their returns to having pre-release cards. Alright, next page here, you'll see the next card we're missing. This is the Larvitar non-Delta reverse. So the fighting type Larvitar that I pointed out earlier, along with the electric here, we're missing that reverse Larvitar. So those two cards are why this is a Wishlist Wednesday rather than a Master Set Monday. We're missing two reverses. Alright, so we've been talking this whole time about how the Delta types on the reverses and on the normal holos just have the Pokemon holo, but let's pull out a non-Delta Pokemon from the reverses and see how it was treated. So the exact opposite was done, which that lens flare really helped accentuate. Is that Ralts is not shiny at all, and the background is completely shiny. And this is how the normal reverses were done for the most part in these sets, but for the Delta species, they changed it up. So even though this card was surrounded by mostly Delta species, they still used the correct holo pattern as ascribed to it. And I will contrast that with the Fire-type Ralts here. We can see that he has just the Ralts holo and not the background. Alright, so you've heard me gush about all these cards a million times. I wanted to pull out this Feebas because I really like the Feebas art from this set. This is an artist that I would really like to do a featured Friday on because this art style is very, very nice in my opinion. I really appreciate it, and really the only way you can make Feebas anything other than a fish is to surround him in fire. And so, sorry about that. That's what they did here. They just covered him in fire. Very, very nice. Instead of being cooked, he is now a fire-type being. Alright, so into the trainers. The trainers are trainers. You know, they have the standard reverse holo pattern and stamps. Nothing crazy there. Did want to point out this Wooper, one of the Tomokazu Kamiya arts in this set, and he always knocks it out of the park with his art, and I'm glad we were able to do a featured Friday on him. It looks like he is looking up to some big floating like a continent or something that has been brought up and is now making a hole in the clouds. Alright, that is the Dragon Frontiers set. You'll see it ends here with the different types of energies. These Holon energies, WP for example, and GL were two different typed energies that you could use in specific scenarios. Glorious set. One of the best sets of all time. I absolutely adore this set. All of the cards are incredible. So, which of the gold stars is your favorite? Which of the deltas is your favorite? And how about these EXs, man? How glorious are these EXs? Let me know what your favorite set is in the comments. I would love to discuss with you why this set is or isn't better than it. And really, I just love all Pokemon sets. They're all incredible, and I just don't know how you can top this set. But Fire Red Leaf Green is better though, right guys? Right guys? Alright, thanks for watching.